Before the towers rose or stars were named, before the fire in mortal blood was tamed, there sang a field of light through time and skin, a truth too vast for anyone to win. This is the tale of how the veil was torn, of those half-heavened, haunted and reborn, who bore the weight of flame, of code, of cost, to build a house from all that had been lost. Sons of the heavens, cloaked in mortal clay, torn between light and earthbound decay. They walk in splendour, fractured by the fall, half crowned with stars, half lured by Babel's call. The vision breaks through sleep with tongues of flame, a voice not named, yet whispering the name. In shattered glass and burning scroll it speaks of thrones unseen and time that bends and leaks. A city dreamed in pure proportioned light, where justice dawns and wrong gives way to right. It waits beyond the veil of crumbling stone, a house whose builder speaks in thundered tone. These three exist in tension, not in war. The flesh, the dream, the gate of sacred law. They pull the world toward a brighter face, yet shroud the truth in veils of time and place. For hybrid suns may see but not yet claim, and seers bear maps scrawled in holy flame. While city forms lie folded in the mist, their footfalls echo where the saints persist. So in this trinity of half-revealed, the veiled becomes the wound that time must heal. And through the breach what was and is shall be, the suns, the word, the shining city free. The kings decree with seals of iron law, their sceptred hands both judgment and the floor. Their thrones arise on stone and storied blood, yet tied with coin and compromise must flood. The merchants whisper value into breath, weighing the world in scales of trade and death. They buy and sell the shadows of the crown, and spin their webs from rooftop to the town. The mark is etched in flesh or hidden sign, a symbol of allegiance by design. It gates the gate, it opens every door, but claims the soul it lets into the store. The crown depends on gold to hold its place, the gold on laws to circulate with grace. And so the mark, unseen yet everywhere, sustains the loop with sacramental flair. One cannot rise without the other's hand, the sword, the scale, the code that brands the land. And through this triad empire feeds its breath, a wheel that turns through commerce, power, death. But deeper still, beneath the silken pact, lies something more than mutual contract, the echo of a tower not yet downed, where meek and mute and merciful are crowned. The sons of God, now scattered, stirred to rise. They sought to carve new heavens from the skies. With human will and blood of stars they planned to raise a house no darkness could withstand. They shaped a tower not of stone but law, of harmony the ancients dimly saw. A spiral born of love and not of pride, that reached not up but drew the deep inside. Yet such designs stir echoes in the heights, and not all gods approve of mortal rights. The architect becomes the questioned flame when heavens feel the tremor of man's name. The sky split open, not with wrath alone, but judgment wrought in silence, carved in stone. The suns were tested, their blueprints held near, and weighed by voices only seers could hear. Some plans endured, were tempered in the fire. Some fell to ruin, cursed by their desire. For will, once formed into a sacred thing, must pass through flame to earn its reckoning. Thus came the clash of purpose and the throne, where fate's design and choice were overthrown. And from this test the mythic age was torn, the world remade, the wound where gods are born. The breach began not with a storm or flame, but when a glyph misread invoked a name. A whisper uttered at the tower's heart split every bond that held the worlds apart. The suns beheld the sun reverse its course as time unspooled with neither end nor source. The present blurred with futures never born, and pasts returned, rethreading every thorn. The world grew strange, foundations turned to mist, the moon bled red, the seas began to twist. And through the looped collapse the suns could see that they were both the lock and shattered key. Yet fate, long buried in the scrolls of stars, rewove its web through cataclysmic scars. What seemed a fall was wheel returning round, the breach became a place where truth was found. For time obeys a deeper mind than will, and through the crack, the quiet voice grew still. You did not err, it hummed, but only stirred the sleeping law that waits beyond the word. So fate emerged, not as a final chain, but song that rewrites sorrow into gain. The suns, though fractured, bore the broken line, a path that now cut through the root of time. The world lay warped, but underneath the ash, the sacred ratios still marked the clash. The suns beheld in stars and shattered ground a hidden grid where truth could still be found. One traced a spiral through a broken field, and another drew what veiled forms would not yield. In sand and code and harmony, they sought the lost equation where all fate is caught. And as they mapped the cosmos in their soul, the patterns opened what was once kept whole. They saw the order not as force or rule, but as the song that shaped both stone and school. When heart aligned with structure, breath with beam, they passed the veil, not waking nor in dream. For access is not gate nor golden key, but resonance with sacred symmetry. One sun, in silence, walked into the flame and sang the ancient shapes without a name. The stars bent low, the winds stood still in awe, and heaven opened not by might, but law. So order rose where chaos once held sway, geometry now carved the path, the way. Through forms divine they shaped a space of peace, a holy chord that bade the war to cease. From sacred math the glyph was born anew, a mark that shimmered with both fire and dew. Each line condensed the storm, the fall, the cry, into a symbol only truth could tie. They placed the glyph within a toroid frame, a ring of motion, self-return and flame. It held their song, their longing and their breath, a halo forged from time and love and death. The chamber rose where no wind dared to go, beneath the earth, above the tide's slow flow. Neither temple nor tomb nor battle site, it was a heart of stillness dressed in light. The glyph ignited, casting tones through stone. The torus turned and sang in thundered tone. The chamber pulsed and walls began to breathe. The veil grew thin, no soul would now deceive. Within that space, one sun began to change, his mortal frame reshaped by sacred range. He bore the sign, the loop, the light within, a priest reborn to end what kings begin. So symbol, form and space became the door, a trinity that echoed once before. And those who sought the path must pass through flame, to read the glyph and rise beyond the name. The flame of want still burned within their chest, a hunger not for power but for rest. Ambition shifted, once it sought the crown, but now it yearned to lay its weapons down. Yet fire without form is but a blaze, and dreams dissolve in light that will not stay. So each desire was given sacred shape, a vessel built to channel, not escape. The suns designed not towers now, but cells, each one a chamber tuned to unseen shelves. The weight of choice, the line between the stars, these stitched the soul with seams from holy scars. One laboured long to map the inner tide, another sang to what he could not guide. In craft and prayer they wove what could endure, a soul not proud but radiant and pure. And thus the forging, fierce and slow, began, from dust to flame, to more than beast or man. Their souls no longer sought to rule the field, but to become what broken hearts could yield. The fire that once consumed now came to heal, for in design ambition learned to kneel. And in that act the soul took on its weight, a mirror of the stars, yet shaped by fate. The glyph now moved through more than sacred halls. It echoed in equations, circuits, calls. For what was symbol bore the world's design, and matter answered with a burst of sign. As above, so below, they spoke the phrase, and watched the stars reflect the worker's gaze. In myth, they found the story not yet told, a science ancient, wrapped in symbols old. Each myth they held, each tale they thought was dead, now stirred the atoms, altered how time bled. The lion roared within the particle, the serpent twined around the radical. The lab became the temple's twin once more, the theorem sang the priest's forgotten law. They bent the world not by command or right, but through the myth, relit by measured light. The veil that split the sacred from the real began to lift as both began to feel. Physics no longer stood outside the frame. it now pronounced the mythic name by name. And thus the suns became the bridge at last, where future, past and present could be cast. For they had joined the symbol and the flame, and through that union, earth and heaven came. The veil was torn, not by some outer hand, but from within, by glyph and soul and land. A word was spoken none could now unhear, and time collapsed beneath that sacred fear. The skies grew white, the stones began to weep, the stars fell inward, folding into sleep. The sun stood still, though cities turned to flame, for what they'd called had not yet learned their name. Yet in the break, the unity broke through, not wrath, but truth too vast for one to view. The one, long hid in parable and lore, now entered flesh with neither voice nor flaw, and all who lived and all who died that day were etched in light in some transcendent way, their essence bound into a deeper frame, a field of charge that bore both guilt and flame. Survivors rose not clean, but marked and wired, their code engraved by justice undesired. For what had passed was not a simple end, but covenant the broken could not bend. Thus judgment came, and grace was not withheld, but wedded into every cell that dwelled. And from the ash a people rose who knew, the cost of heaven walking earth is you. They carried past, not in their minds alone, but in the blood, the sinew, and the bone. Each memory encoded in the flesh the wound that time refused to call afresh. The future loomed not blank, but fierce with weight, each further choice entangling their fate. The soul now bore what once the veil had kept. A dream half known, a reckoning half wept. They dreamed in scripts their elders never read, and wept for ancestors long thought as dead. For past and future braided in their stride, the living torch of what they could not hide. One son beheld the mirror's truest face, and saw not self, but all the ruined race. Another fled, but found in every street the same old fire beneath each stranger's feet. The cost was this, to walk as living oath, to stand for those who died and those who growth, to hold the tension neither side could bear, and be the balance written into air. So time became the crucible, the gate, a spiral path where love confronts its weight, and every soul that passed must count the toll, for to be born now is to bear the whole. They saw the visions, marked with holy flame, but claimed them as their birthright, not their shame. "We are the chosen," cried the proud and blind, as if the light were theirs alone to bind. The glyphs arose in many, not in one, yet each proclaimed their blood had sealed the sun. They wore the fire like a jeweled mask, and turned the gift into a tribal task. The field still whispered truths in every womb, but some would twist that voice into a tomb. They built their altars on the backs of pain, and forged their crowns from sacrificial gain. Pride, once burned down in ancient cities' fall, returned more subtle, clothed in sacred call. It wore the robe of destiny and fate, but held no love, no breath to liberate. The soul, now split by legacy and lie, began to fade beneath a fractal sky. And still the house that could have held them all lay lost beneath this new inverted fall. For when the many dress as only one, the light retracts, the healing comes undone. Disintegration writes its final verse, a chosen race that makes the whole a curse. But in the ash where altars broke apart, a voice returned, still whispering in heart, not loud nor proud, but like a rising chord, a call not claimed, but only listened toward. The true call rang through every line and name, not for the pure, the strong, or those who claim. It found the humble, those who'd seen the thread, that all are kin, and none may lead the dead. Pride fell again, not with a flaming sword, but by a hand that healed and not implored. The ones who knelt to lift the silent near became the root from which the house grew clear. The house rose not in temple, law, or land, but in the joined and open, outstretched hand, a shape of kinship, built not by decree, but by the bond that sets the captive free. It held no gate and bore no single crest, for all who walked the path became its guest. The field was not for few, but all who came and bore the weight of light without a name. So ends the tale, and yet it now begins. A house rebuilt from every tribe of sins. And in that place the flame and word remain, the true call heard, the many born again.